And when they scored 2 early goals, I thought, it's over. We're beaten. We're dead.
8 time zones away, Russian fans, anxious, nervous, expectant. 8:15, electricity. The most anticipated hockey summit ever, mere minutes away. International hockey traditions honored, gifts exchanged, the 2-man referee system, and a third-period end change. To further enhance the spectacle, a legend stepped from retirement. Foster Hewitt would provide the words, Brian Conacher the color. Their pre-game concern, the names of the strangers. Finally, at 8:29, Petrov and Esposito skated forward.
When the game is underway with Petrov having cleared it into the Canadian zone. Canada clear on the boards, but not out. It's Berkman coming up now with a pass to center ice. Esposito going up over the line.
I was so hyped. It was incredible. I hadn't been that nervous. I can't remember when.
Back of the net. There's Bernoy. There's the pass from Lino. Big stop. Here's a shot right in front. Let it go! Bill Esposito has scored for Canada.
Confirmation. 1 shot, 1 goal. It was that easy.
I defy anybody on that team to tell me that on that bench that we weren't going to walk over these guys like crazy.
6 minutes later.
And Parker playing up. It's back to Henderson. He scores!
2-0. All was right in Canada.
It was very, very important for me to put these Russians in their place. I mean, they were the big, bad Russians, and Canada, this is the one thing that we are the best at.
Hockey's best. That was the idea. Yet old NHL rivalries were hard to bridge.
We did like each other very much, and it was quite an adjustment to do with those guys.
But that hurdle was easily overcome.
The Maple Leaf broke down the barriers. The Red Maple Leaf, and when they signed up for Team Canada, they were teammates. It was like an all-star game when they're friends.
Harry Sinden, ex-Bruin coach, came back to guide Team Canada's fortunes. He set up camp in Toronto and began the task of getting his players into shape. He knew conditioning would play a vital role.
We had a pretty good training camp by our standards. You know, we worked a month. We worked as hard or harder than we did in our usual NHL training camps.
Sinden played for the 58 Whitby Dunlops. They beat the Soviets in the World Championships. He, more than anyone, knew the opponent would be ready.
I don't really believe that they believed me, that they were going to meet such a formidable team as the Soviet national team.
I never worked that hard since or before as I did in training camp at that. But mentally, I didn't get myself as prepared as I should have.
John Ferguson, retired NHL heavyweight champion, rounded out the coaching staff. The team took a few weeks to prepare. The Soviets worked year-round to do the same. The attitude in camp was jovial. The players reasoned that they were far beyond the Soviets in ability, and so they worked hard by NHL standards. But it wasn't all of our best. Bobby Orr with bad knees, Bobby Hull and others signed to the WHA would not play. Still, we were leading 2-0.
But the Soviet team sprucing up. Here's a shot. Blocked. Another try. The shot goes wide and bounces over to this side. Paladiev trying to clear to the corner. It's center right in front. He scores! On that left side. They finally found the corner of the net. Mihailov nearly got loose. Gets it over to Petrov. Back to Mihailov. Right in the clear. Oh, right in. It scores! Petrov getting the rebound. And it's all tied up.
Because hockey is so greatly loved by Russians, we felt duty-bound to be competitive against the professionals and to justify their faith in us. That night in Montreal was so beautiful for us. It showed everyone that we were able to compete with the Canadians.
Period 2. Meet Valery Khalamov. He could compete with anybody.
Down over the line, cutting in around Ori. A shot, he scores! Kharlamov
Moments later, he struck again.
Varlamov, a very tricky player, gets scores! Varlamov set a bullet drive.
I remember Valeri, what he did on the ice. He was like a slalom skier, only on skates. And he was so elegant and powerful. Something that Ken Dryden found out that night. Kharlamov was an outstanding hockey player, probably the best I ever saw. I was proud to be his teammate. He had such talent.
Such talent. Kharlamov, Mikhailov, Yakushev, Tretiak, Petrov, beating Canada's team at Canada's game. But how? Their uniforms shabby, their skates, their helmets well-worn, their ability obvious, at least to anyone who watched objectively.
They judged us very superficially, without much thought. And it was a big mistake on the part of the Canadians. We could see from their gestures, by the way they acted and the remarks they made during our practice, that they didn't consider us to be worthy opponents. We could hear their laughter. We could all feel it. That arrogance.
Arrogant pride before the fall. 4-2, the Soviets in control, beating us on the boards, out-hustling us behind the nets, out-muscling us at every turn. And in the open ice, they showed us moves that have never been seen here before. That night, the Soviets were simply strongest, hungriest, slickest, and above all, fastest. Team Canada was dead tired, and there was still a period left to play.
We were fooled. I mean, we were extremely fooled and stunned and shocked.
Their homework was done. Ours wasn't, in spite of the infamous Moscow scouting trip.
The scouting report was Bob Davidson, pretty astute hockey man, and his analysis that, yes, they've got a very good hockey club, but their goaltending is relatively weak.
The goaltender that was going to play for the All-Star team, or the team that's coming to Canada, Tretiak, that 11 goals go in, so to make a report on the goaltender wasn't very good.
Bernoulli coming in with a pass behind the right in. And he failed to lift the puck over Tretiak. Another shot on Tretiak.
The report was superficial. Tretiak had announced his marriage just before Davidson arrived with the late Johnny McClellan. Celebrating with friends dulled his reflexes. The Russians played the rest of the angles with their wits.
The Canadian scouts said that I was weak. I couldn't stop a beat, but they'd easily beat. Maybe it was a good scouting report, the Canadians saying that I'd be a lightweight. But maybe it was a good trick.
Maybe it was a superb trick. We were playing catch-up hockey. We needed a spark.
Foster, what Team Canada hasn't been able to do in this game is slow down the play. The tempo has been too fast.
But in the third period, we came back, led brilliantly by the line of Clark, Henderson, Ellis. After the goal change, the fire died, smothered by fatigue. Evident on our bench, and where it counted most, on the ice. The Soviet invaders came at Ken Dryden in waves.
Went right in to score and give the Soviet a 5-3 lead. Got up over the line. Here they're closing in. Seaman gets right in. He scores! Seaman then rushing right in to score with Henderson losing it to Chapman. A roll right in front. They score! Yakovlev cutting right in front to make it 7-3.
Game 1, a blowout, all right, for them.
I remember lots going in, and I just remember the feelings of them. I felt like a fish on land. I mean, I just felt out of it. It was an awful experience. I mean, it was really awful.
Brought to you by Molson Export. X says it all.
This is the party of the year. You can't miss it. You just go down the highway, 2 laps and a right.
Party? That guy said left, huh? I'm pretty sure he said left. He definitely said left. It's a toga party. Oh, personal affirmation? R for reverse. We're out of here. Hey, what, you get lost? Gentlemen, welcome to the Center for Personal Affirmation.
Molson Canadian, with beers all about.
At age 74, I'm the oldest Ironman triathlete.
Jim Ward has a hobby. It's called staying young.
It's a workout.
That's why he uses Armor All protectant on his dash, seats, and especially his tires. Rubber can age and crack, but Armor All penetrates to keep his tires looking like new. Jim says his tires never seem to get old. People say the same thing about Jim.
I like a good-looking car. It makes me feel good.
There is a fountain of youth, and we own the patent. Armor All.
I gotta run.
They may not know that Ford offers standard dual airbags and available anti-lock brakes on more models than any other manufacturer. But in time, we're certain they'll grow to appreciate it. The fact that we offer standard dual airbags and available anti-lock brakes on more models than any other manufacturer was worth repeating. At Ford of Canada, we're committed to making safety an important part of your future.
Hey, how was our trip? Good. What's new? Did you see our app? Great, huh? What's this? Our 800 number. I thought we didn't have the budget. Hey, if you want to play in the big leagues. Yeah, but can we afford it? We can't now.
Bell's new 800 entry. Subscribe for less than $1 a day.
Hello. Yes, sir. You've seen our ad.
We make it easier for potential customers to talk to you.
We're, big enough to handle that.
Long-distance business sense. Call us.
How much for the deluxe shower head?
It pulses, it massages,
and it's a
How much for the deluxe juicer?
This juice is actually 83 juicers in one.
Ever notice when you mention the word deluxe, they always avoid the price?
How much for the deluxe burger?
Well, now, for just $2.39, McDonald's is serving up deluxe 2 different ways. This deluxe bacon double cheeseburger with lettuce and tomato, or this deluxe personal pizza with 6 delicious toppings.
It was our hydro bill.
They wanted to save energy.
We weren't sure where to start.
So we started at Home Hardware. I explained how this shower head conserves energy by saving hot water.
3 teenagers means a lot of showers.
And I gave them our catalog, full of energy-saving ideas. Bathroom is still the most popular room in the house. They should be proud.
I think it's my turn yet.
Take a number, Dad. Take a number, Dad.
Toronto anticipated a more festive mood, but everything was deadly serious now. The Soviets had come to score some goals, win a few games, to prove they belonged. Montreal's 7-3 win changed their mandate. Now they were instructed to win it all. And while they enjoyed Canadian hospitality, they churned inside. The pause in action allowed for some ice-breaking, but everyone was obsessed with what had happened.
The worst thing is to overestimate yourself and underestimate your opposition.
They completely underestimated us at the beginning. For them, the series was a novelty, not a serious competition. They were so certain that they would crush us easily, especially in Montreal. For us, it was perfect. We were ready. We could play our game and let their unprofessional attitude work against them.
Canadian national team founder, Father David Bauer, sensed anxiety. Their coaches, Kulagin and Bobrov, struggled with Moscow's new expectations. Out on Carlton Street, fans felt the tension. As they filed into the gardens, it grew. Soon, a sea of faces reflected the shock of our nation, reflected the disbelief of Montreal. We sat nervously waiting. While journalists retracted their blowout predictions, Canadians sifted through the wreckage of Game 1.
The public was totally devastated. They were still in a state of shock, but deep down inside, most of those people, they were scared to death. And so was I.
Harry overhauled the lineup. Dryden, unhappy Hadfield, others out. Parise, Tony Esposito, and others in. The team was ready, and so was the Gardens crowd.
I was very proud as a Leaf to be there and to hear the support of the fans that we had there. I think the fans have a lot to do with that game.
For us personally, it was difficult on a psychological level to play in their arenas. After all, these Canadian stadiums are two of hockey's greatest temples.
Difficult for them, critical for us. A loss here and the series would be over. A total disaster, a national disgrace. In Toronto, things got tougher. Tony Esposito and Tretiak kept the game scoreless into the second period. Then Phil Esposito's odyssey began. Foster Hewitt would come to those words often that September. Phil's September.
An excellent job of getting Phil Esposito the puck. Now look at the quick move across the goal mouth. And he jams it in the far side.
Hockey is punctuated by retribution. Kharlamov made our defense look slow in Montreal. Ivan Cournoyer made theirs look ponderous in Toronto. Elation, 2-0 Canada. This lineup worked, and the Roadrunner flew.
And Cournoyer is gone, and he breaks in, good position, and he fires a good hard shot to that opening in Tretiak's leg.
Ivan Cournoyer. We had a nickname for him. We called him the Train, which fit his personal style. He was fast and strong and dangerous. They all had great personal skills and much determination. We never put them down. We respected them.
And this game is different as night and day from the first game in Montreal.
They've controlled the game.
Control was the key, and Canada's roster additions the instrument. Role players like Blackhawk defenseman Pat Stapleton knew their job and were up to the task. In the Gardens, Their bench felt the heat of battle, but a penalty to Bobby Clark opened the door, and Alexander Yakushev cut our lead to 1.
Bergman and Park the defense. Canada leading 2-0. There's a breakaway. Up the center. Zeman gets away from a shot. Oh, he was hurried by Park and failed to get it. Yakushev scores. Yakushev was standing in front and was able to meet.
This is a good example of why you should always follow the play up. Zeman has a clear-cut breakaway. He shoots wide. Now watch Yakushev park himself in front of the net.
Big Yak, a lanky scoring machine. At home in the slot, just like his Canadian counterpart, Phil Esposito. Seconds later, another power play opportunity.
Pat Stapleton, number 3, sitting in the penalty box.
The next goal would be talked about forever.
Point is on the defense. Peter Mahovlich remains out there. There's a pass back to Liapkin over on the far side. That crisscross passing play. They failed to quick on that one. Now Shadron getting it back to Liapkin. Over on the far side, right in front of the goal, went wide of the net. Zeman knocks it back to the goal. It rolls off to the side. They failed to clear it out. The point failed to get it away. Then Esposito cleared out. It's a race down with Peter Mahovlich going in on goal. Right in! Scores! Peter Mahovlich.
What an effort by Peter Mahovlich. What can you say? The Russian is still wondering where the puck is.
To this day, Tretjak still wonders where it went.
I remember that goal to this day. Each detail, each movement. And I still do not understand how he managed to score. Technically, I played it perfectly and didn't make a mistake. Still, he got the puck past me and scored a very big goal for them. It was like magic.
When Peter Mahov scored the goal, that short-handed goal, I mean, I got an assist on it, to tell you the truth. I just blasted it out of our own zone and off the board.
Picked it up just inside our red line and ended up on a one-on-one situation with a defenseman. Picked up a lot of steam by the time I got to their blue line and felt I'd take a good slap shot, you know, might get a good shot on net.
Hesitation by their defenseman. He was lost. Peter was free, raging, and would not be denied.
When he put the move on them, on Gusev and then on Tretjak, I just freaked out. I mean, I was yelling like a Banji Indian. Way to go, Peter, you big stiff. That's what I kept saying, though.
The moment was lost in battle, but Mahovlich picked up the thread in time.
15 years later, I finally got to see it in a video, and yeah, it was unbelievable. Who is that guy?
Simple answer, one of Toronto's Mahovlich brothers. 9 years younger than brother Frank, the legendary Big M. While Frank was overwhelmed by emotion as the series progressed, this night he was a predator, and the hometown fans couldn't get enough.
Stop. He's a rookie out there for the first time. The right foot for Mahovlich scores! Mahovlich! Mike Mahovlich has scored a fourth goal.
And both the Mahovlich brothers are dangerous tonight.
The whole team was dangerous that night. Despite the finesse of Soviet play, we shut down their attack. What did get through was turned away by Tony O. It was as if Montreal had never happened. A nightmare forgotten. A 4-1 lead. For the moment, Team Canada was inspired.
Maybe after the first game, which they lost badly, they got serious about us and began to respect us and our abilities. In the second game, they were much more collected and concentrated. A hockey player can tell things from his opponent's appearance, and I remember looking into their eyes in Toronto and seeing more fire and intensity. It was very clear their expressions had changed.
The score changed too, and so did the mood of everyone. Brother Night. Tony and Phil Esposito, game stars. Peter and Frank Mahovlich, game heroes. Finally, the expected high had arrived. But questions for Winnipeg haunted the celebration. Which lineup would play? Which team would show? Toronto's or Montreal's?
Enjoy the victory, but don't gloat over it. We got 6 games to play. Enjoy it tonight. Savor it. We got a lot of games to play.
The best rust protection in the business.
Like a rock, I was strong as I could be. Like a rock, nothing ever got to me.
Over 93% of all Chevy full-size pickups sold in the last 10 years are still on the road today.
Like a rock,
Chevrolet. Trucks you can depend on. Trucks that last.
like a rock. We always go the distance, right up to the wall. Good friends you can count on, and a fool accepts it all. Nothing short of the best will ever stand the test. There's nothing halfway about it. That's always been our goal. X says it all. X says it all. X says it all.
There are 2 types of 5-year guaranteed investment certificates on the market these days. One, you can buy at the bank. And the other, as the saying goes, you can take to the bank. The Honda no small print warranty. If accountants ran the world, everyone would drive a Honda.
When Raymond Otwell of Whitehorse heard about Motomaster's new Long Life antifreeze, he was a bit skeptical. After all, with an amazing new formula guaranteed for 4 years or 100,000 kilometers, that's enough to go around the world more than twice. Undaunted, he set out to test it himself. 100,000 kilometers later, Mr. Otwell came to 2 conclusions. You can't buy a better antifreeze than Motomaster Long Life, and there really is no place like home. Motomaster, exclusively at Canadian Tire.
I'm a big man.
Why do so many men stick with Bic?
I'm a big man.
Because there's a Bic for every beard. Bic Regular, a great shave at a great price.
I'm a big man.
Bic Sensitive, Bic Baby's tender skin. Bic Metal, slim head, total control.
Yeah, I'm a big man.
I'm a big man.
Regular, sensitive, metal.
I'm a big man.
At Mazda, we went beyond technology and relied on human thoughts, feelings, and emotions to create the new 1993 Mazdas. Maybe that's why more and more people have become aware of Mazda, and why every Mazda just feels right.
We carved this game from the ice and snow. It was ours, who we were, who we are. And a world that didn't know much about us knew one thing for certain. We could play hockey better than anyone. Our ribbon of honor stretched all the way to the 50s. Olympic gold, world championships. Like sunrise, victory was a given. 1954, shifting tides. East York's Lyndhursts lost 7-2 to the Soviets. We called it a fluke, blind luck. They'd only been playing internationally for 5 years. Didn't even have an indoor rink. We'd send them a better team, get the trophy back. Unleash the Penticton V's. The Soviets wilted. Along the way, Hal Tarala took out the Russian rocket, permanently. But Zevel Bobrov would return as a coach in '72. For now, our game was secure. Another shift in the tides. The Olympics. Our permanent gold lost 2-0 in a flurry of funny red shirts and even funnier black helmets. Hitting didn't faze them this time. Their first games, and our grasp on gold was gone. We never got it back. There were still moments of glory. In '58, Harry Sinden led the Whitby Dunlops to a decisive World Championship victory over them. But our trips to the high spot on the podium would soon end. Maybe that's why Harry treasured the trophy so long ago, at a time when our attention was elsewhere. We had the NHL. A star-studded league of all Canadian boys who dazzled and shone. The World Game, who needed it? Slowly, surely, we turned our gaze away. We stayed on the world scene, but with our top 300 or 400 players in the pro ranks, world and Olympic titles were just a dream. Yet Father Bauer and Jackie McLeod kept the team competitive in the 60s, with everybody except the Soviets. The Winnipeg-based team was anchored by amateur goalie legend Seth Martin and built on patriotic ideals.
The 5 geographical divisions of our country, that we must search for every strand which can bring these together. And certainly our national game serves a very wonderful purpose in achieving a Canadian unity.
The Soviets of the 60s, on top of their game, with methods alien to us. It was hard to imagine NHL players riding the bus in uniform. Their coaches, Arkady Chernisov and Anatoly Tarasov, a disciplinarian who borrowed from other sports and stressed collective tactics. He drilled the best players year-round. Their status confused. If they focused solely on hockey, how could they be amateurs? The fields at Arkhangelskoye are still used today, fields where Tarasov hammered his theories home. They say he broke hearts here, crushed men's will, acceptable in a society that measured success through victory.
I taught them that hockey is the essence of their very lives, and accordingly I explained that everything, absolutely everything I judged about them would come from their behavior during training, not during the game.
It was their time. Starshinov, their leader, on the ice.
The cruelty in training that is part of the Tarasov legacy was a success. Remember that it resulted in the unprecedented modern hockey phenomenon, Soviet national team. And for 10 or 12 years, we managed to win all of the world's best tournaments.
Canada chose to leave international hockey. Winnipeg conceded hosting the 1970 World Tournament. But now the Russians were coming. They'd face Team Canada, Game 3, Winnipeg, where fans, spurned by NHL expansion, had a new WHA franchise built around Bobby Hull, the Golden Jet, who could only sit, watch, and wish it were different.
I can't understand that why the National League has to be so petty over this. I'm a Canadian, and I think that I should be able to represent my country, and I want to.
Number 22, Vyacheslav Anisin. Number 23, Yuri Lebedev. Number 24, Alexander Bodunov.
For them, a brand new line. The Big Red Machine's newest prodigies, Anisin, Lebedev, Bodunov. Fresh young legs thrown into the fire by Bobrov and Kulagin. Their debut would be memorable. Winnipeg was supposed to determine the direction the series would take, and in a very real sense, it did. Both teams came out flying. The goalies, Tretiak and Esposito, were hot. Canada struck first.
Here's another drive by Bill White. Was White on the edge of the goal frame.
J.P. Parise, pride of Smooth Rock Falls. First contribution, more to come. Moments later, a reply from Petrov, one of the players we derisively called Robot.
Back to Park, cleared over on at the blue line, intercepted. Here's a long shot. He scores! A long shot from the right side by Petrov, right from the face.
From a Soviet perspective, when the journalists called us robots, it was a great compliment. You must understand that in Russian the word robot is a derivative of work, hard work. And without a doubt, we were working seriously, like robots, working very hard.
Late in the first period, the second period made it clear. Each shift would be a battle. No backing down. This series was going to be a war. Led by warriors like Phil Esposito.
They're jabbing in the opposite corner. Gusev is watched by Parise.
The lead was short-lived, and all too familiar names stepped forward.
And Harlamov goes racing away on a breakaway, coming in on goal. He shoots, he scores! Harlamov came out from nowhere there.
Out of nowhere, Valery Harlamov was winning hearts, gaining respect.
I don't know how to describe. I don't want to take anything away from stars that I played against here in this country. But he was, I would have to rate him as a top player, top 5 players ever in hockey.
Shades of what would come. Canada's last goal, Paul Henderson.
From the face-off, the puck slides into the Canadian zone. 6:18 remaining in the second period. Here's a loose puck for Henderson. Right in. Scores! Henderson went racing in there to get a loose puck. And he fired it home for Canada to bring back that 2-goal lead.
That should have done it. But two factors became evident. We weren't in top condition yet, and they had Anisin, Lebedev, and Bodinov. With 5 minutes left in the second period, the newcomers took control.
Pulled his way through, but squeezed out and didn't get a direct shot at the goal. Esposito covering his man. They're bumping there on the side. Lebedev, 23. Here's a shot, and he scores! A carom shot.
They dominated that so-called fourth line, were the young Soviet players on the rise, and they were outstanding.
Puck goes into the corners. It's passed in front. It rolls loose. Here's another pass right in front. He got the score! And they tied it up. Bodinov let it go almost before he could move.
The damage was done now. There would be no more 2-goal leads. The joyful faces of the kid line told the story. And it showed on our bench. The heart was there, but the body still wasn't. The score remained 4-4 through the final period. We played on pure instinct and raw courage, but the game was slipping away. When chance appeared, Tretiak closed the door. As patterns developed, leaders emerged.
This Phil was really something. If he felt like complaining, he complained. If he felt like yelling, he yelled. It was new to us, his childlike attitude. He didn't hide his emotions as we were taught. He didn't worry about being even-tempered.
A 4-4 tie. Nothing settled. There was only one game left at home, and we had to gain an edge.
Oh, meetings all day. How are the kids? What are you doing for dinner? Pizza. Hang on. Buster? Who's
my little sweetie. Do you miss Mommy? I miss you too, baby. When I get home, I'm gonna rub your furry little tummy. Yes, I am.
All right.
The crystal clear sound of Bell Long Distance. Stay close.
The cost of heart disease to our society is enormous, but we are making progress because of new medicines that help control the disease and reduce the need for surgery.
And the future looks even brighter, with almost 100 new heart medicines now being developed by brand-name pharmaceutical companies.
This is one of the best ways to reduce the great human and financial costs of disease.
Canada's brand-name pharmaceutical companies, bringing research to life.
We didn't know why Dave wanted to stop in this town.
I promised Mom I'd look up a family friend.
Seems you went to see this girl, Doreen.
Yes. Well, I'm a friend of Doreen's. Doreen's in the other room.
Well, he got all he could handle. Hi, Doreen.
Sorry to let Julie and Kim.
Excuse me, I gotta make a phone call.
We would have helped him out,
Guys, you gotta get over here.
but we were kind of occupied.
He says no way.
Molson Canadian, with beers, all of it.
We believe the last thing the world needs is another car. So we built one, the Nissan Altima. Why? Because we knew we could build a car that showed greater respect for the environment. We knew words like performance and fuel economy could be spoken in the same breath. That a car could be big enough to be comfortable without being uncomfortably big. Because we were satisfied we could build a car as safe for those who would drive it as those who would not. And because we're committed to taking responsibility for every car we build. The new Nissan Altima, built for the human race.
When you're looking for the best insulation for your home, remember, not all insulation is the same. Watch out for imposters. Do it right. Do it pink.
Timothy Eaton would be amazed at the scents men have today, because for the best selection of men's fragrances and skincare products, Eaton's is the place to be. Right now, with any purchase, you'll receive a talking calculator for $15. Eaton's. Good satisfactory or money refunded.
West Coast, Game 4. The series deadlocked. The fans, nervous. We were not dominating. We were not even winning. Sinden juggled the lineup again. Dryden back. Hadfield back, but brooding. Goldsworthy was in and took an early penalty. Their fearsome power play seized the moment.
Recovered by Blinov. Up the center to Petrov. Over the line, he stopped. They're getting that passing play here. Lushenko's drive. Scores! Long shot by Lushenko. And whether it was deflected by a six.
Sinden was seething. So were the fans.
Coming up at the blue line. Pass on the left wing to Mihailov. At center. Over on that right
4 minutes later, Goldsworthy was back in the penalty box.
Here's Lushenko getting his shot. He scores! Lushenko lets one go. On a beautiful passing play, and the Soviet have taken a 2-0 lead. Again, an example.
Taking a lead. Taking the game. Taking our fans.
Vancouver, we were never in the game. They just took control, and as hard as we tried, we seemed to get a little worse all the time.
Vancouver was the game that I'd like to forget and try to block out of my mind. It was a tough game from the first drop of the puck.
Period 2. Anxiety became frustration. And then predictability. We started to run at them. But they were too tough for that. Desperation was the last resort for Team Canada's players. But the Vancouver fans would have none of this style of hockey. Nor would the Soviets.
С другой стороны,
What we didn't like in that game was the cruel way the Canadians played. It was unnecessary. We didn't mind the physical style, but that night they were rude and undisciplined.
But it wasn't all that way. There were moments of hope. Then a cruel twist. We came back strong to tie it up. Or so it seemed. The goal was disallowed, kicked in. The crowd disbelieving. Then, Team Soviet struck like lightning.
The fans, they were upset. And, probably rightly so. This is supposed to be the team of representing Canada, and you're in your home rink, and you let these guys, walk all over you. They had a right to be upset.
And it wasn't over.
From him, Marlov turning, getting a backhand right, but he scored! Nikolov from Harlamov.
The crowd's anger reached a peak. Its wrath escaped no one.
It really hurt us in one point because we're Canadian and we try to win. Maybe we play bad that night. Maybe we deserve to be booed.
Our defense was porous. Dryden, the last line. He faced the onrushing tide bravely, but was unsteady. We were being beaten. A disheartened crowd was unforgiving. The pride of our nation was turning to shame.
The fans in Vancouver in the rink weren't reacting any differently than several million fans at home in their living rooms. I mean, they were all booing too. And we were getting it, and I was getting it, and they weren't wrong.
We mounted attack after attack, but to no avail. The disallowed goal and first period penalties hurt us as much as anything. Anything, that is, except the sounds of frustration filling the Coliseum as the second period closed 4-1 for them.
Phil and I were happened to be dressing beside each other. And I mean, we were really ticked off. I mean, you look around the room, and I mean, and then, of course, you get the pity party going. Hey, I've given up my summer, I'm trying my guts out, and we're representing Canada, and they're booing us. And I mean, it hurt down. I mean, it really did hurt.
I said, I hope I'm picked to start the game, because I am going to give them a piece of my mind tonight. I've had enough of this.
We pressed in the third, took the play away, but goals were hard to come by, and Tretiak was there, a constant.
Right pass. He went right past Park there. Now another Esposito.
Goldsworthy, an act of atonement from Bergman and, of course, Phil Esposito.
The coach knew we must cover Phil Esposito. He told me, you are big enough and strong enough to cover him. Easy to say, but hard to do. Then he made the job worse and said, the success of our team depends greatly on you.
The logic was solid enough. Shut Phil Esposito down, shut Team Canada down. Petrov was completely at ease, his team supremely confident. Their plan was working. For now, Vancouver victory was at hand.
Still in there. Back of the net. Yakovlev set it right in front of him. An open chance. They scored. They found that opening. Data with 27 seconds at center ice. Over on the left wing. Dennis Hull right in a goal. Dennis Hull.
Hull's goal. Too little, too late. It ended 5-3. Then Phil got his Game Star wish. The chorus of boos became fuel for his fire.
People across Canada, we tried. We did our best. And for the people that boo us, geez, I'm really
all of us guys are really disheartened, and we're disillusioned, and we're disappointed in some of the people. We cannot believe the bad press we've got, the booing we've gotten in our own building.
Honest to God, that just came out. To this day, I never saw that until 1981 or 82. People used to tell me about it while I traveled around Canada, but I had never seen and heard what I really said.
I'm really disappointed. I am completely disappointed. I cannot believe it. Some of our guys are really, really down in the dumps. We know, we're trying. What the hell? I mean, we're doing the best we can, and they got a good team, and let's face facts. But it doesn't mean that we're not giving it our 150%, because we certainly are.
I think, Phil, the disappointment is a natural thing because...
And I kept going with Phil. As long as he wanted to talk in the mood that he was in, I was going to let him talk because I knew I had a classic.
You know, we all live with the National Hockey League. We've all been so proud over the years how great they are.
It's unexpected because of the press said that we were so good. Or not one of us guys said we were good.
No, this is the thing. This is the thing that
I do remember being so frustrated that I almost was on the verge of swearing 2 or 3 times. And I do remember Esau just letting it go, and I was hot, and there were a couple of people up in the stands that were throwing things at me, and they were yelling obscenities at me.
And he got the whole country to suddenly examine themselves, to understand what they were doing to these players who had been working so tremendously hard.
I mean, every one of us guys, 35 guys that came out and played for Team Canada, we did it because we love our country, and not for any other reason, no other reason. They can throw the money for the pension fund out the window, they can throw anything they want out the window. We came because we love Canada. And even though we play in the United States and we earn money in the United States, Canada is still our home, and that's the only reason we come. And I don't think it's fair that we should be booed.
Well, it's here. Time for me to step down and retire as chairman of Chrysler. And hey, anybody that goes out wants to go out with a bang. And we've got a bang that'll be heard from Germany to Japan. It's a new car design that's as revolutionary as our minivan was. It's going to change the way cars are designed from now on. We call it cab forward. What we did was move the windshield forward. Then we pulled the rear wheels back, made the rear doors wider and easier to get through, and increased the width. Believe me, this does more than just improve the looks. It gives you a lot more room inside, it rides better, and it's easier to handle. I think cab forward, like our minivan, is going to get copied by everybody. It has to, just because it makes so much sense. You know, I got to tell you, when it's your last turn at bat, it sure is nice to hit a home run.
You've always got time. You've always got time. You've always got time.
Tim Hortons muffins, baked fresh every day.
You've always got time for Tim Hortons.
Now with a coffee, just $1.49.
When you're looking for the best insulation for your home, remember,
La 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 la.
not all insulation is the same.
La 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 la.
Watch out for imposters. Do it right. Do it pink. When you're looking for the best insulation for your home, remember,
La 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 la.
not all insulation is the same.
La 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 la.
Watch out for imposters. Do it right. Do it pink.
Ottawa loves Cool FM 93.9.
Well, Cool is great because now you're hearing all the great music on FM.
And that's what the city needed. It's a good FM station that plays the hits.
We like to hear Bonnie Raitt, Phil Collins, Elton John, Kenny G, Rod Stewart. They're all there.
To have the kind of variety of music and current hits that I'm getting on Cool FM, it's stopping the search.
Now I don't have to switch around to a lot of radio stations. I listen to Cool FM. I found the one I like to listen to.
Cool FM 93.9. Turn it on.
Other stores carry Sony, we know that. But why buy Sony from other stores when Wacken offers so much more? We have been selling Sony since day one, and at Wacket, we'll be around to service you down the road. Sony has been #1 with Wacket for over 30 years, and you have been #1 with us for over 58 years. We will give you the best price, the best selection, the best service, and we will be around next year to prove it. So buy your Sony from another store. Wacket and Sony, we're here for you.
The Russians were in Moscow getting the hero treatment the morning we left for Stockholm. Sweden would buy time, expose us to the big ice and the European referees in 2 exhibition games before the series resumed. John Ferguson, Harry Sinden, and Al Eagleson had holes to patch. Too many players, too little time. There was no grand send-off save for a few die-hard fans and their simple telegram. They could feel the support of our nation dwindling, but still the team managed to put up a brave front.
There was nobody at the airport to see us off. And that sort of gave us an indication that, boys, you cook your own goose here, you're on your own. And we had that feeling at that point.
Between here and the Soviet Union, Harry and his team would be branded bullies and face a team mutiny. The games in Stockholm turned into brawls. We won and tied against their nationals. The officiating was inept, and some team members were growing more than a little bit restless.
Sweden, again, gave us a chance to come together as a team and created an opportunity for the players to get some bitching out of their system. The bitching culminated the night before the first game against the Swedes when one of our senior players, who would play a very important role in Russia 3 or 4 days later, came to me with 3 other...
Al has a knack of portraying to the team that you go play hockey, I'll take all the grief for you. And he would do that. He's a very, very loyal individual.
After about an hour, I let them get it out of their system and agreed with everything they said. And then said, now, guys, get one thing straight. The poison's gone, no more yapping, and if any guy in this room doesn't think we can win another game, you better get the hell out of here now.
I didn't care one iota about anything. That's all I cared about was winning. Had to win. Had to win. When we went to Sweden, we became close, the guys.
We went out in the countryside. We did some benefit games with kids, and the guys really had a chance to know each other.
And I also remember the terrible, terrible press we were getting from the Swedish press and from the Canadian press. We were called the Canadian Mafia. We were called the Goon Squad. We were, I mean, it only helped to make us a team.
Anything like that would help unify the club, eh? If you're getting criticized, then it just tightens the group tighter and tighter.
And so I remember getting on that airplane, and all the guys, it was a different atmosphere. We were cocky. We were really cocky. And it was like, that's it. We're going over there, and we're going to kick buns.
Behind enemy lines, a united team now. Vic Hadfield, Martin, and Gubermo had gone home to their NHL camps. Gilbert Perrault would follow a few days later. No hard feelings. There was a common goal, an enemy to vanquish. Spotlight on the Luzhniki Ice Palace, and 3,500 Canadian fans who made the journey. Only 4 games remained, 4 chances at redemption. For Canada's team, grim determination hid behind the festivities, and the air was thick once more with tension as our team was introduced.
You know, if I had fallen down, or if any of our players had fallen on the ice, we would be humiliated and confused. We would never have reacted the way Phil Esposito did, like an artist with such elegance.
Tretiak was in goal. He'd go all the way for them, a giant. Tony Esposito was back for us. He understood their style, this intricate passing game.
Although it appeared that he was free. On the face-off, the Soviet gets a draw. It goes to the side. Shadron shot it in back of the goal. Slid right front. Left wide. That was a close call there. As Shadron had his shot.
Still first period of the Moscow debut. A study in ferocious attack. Ferocious Canadian attack.
To the side. Henderson is back. And a great save again by Tretiak.
But Tretiak was first to break.
Passing back. A shot scores! Canada has opened the scoring. With a quick shot there from the wing. And it was Partie.
Turnaround. Now they looked overconfident, and we were underdogs, fighting back.
Right, side, he scores! Clark just pulled his way right in. And Tretiak
Canadians, 3,500 strong. They became a factor in stark contrast to the impassive Moscow bureaucrats who gobbled up the Luzhniki tickets. 9 minutes later, Paul Henderson's star in ascent. He made it 3-0. The thrown-together line of Henderson, Clark, and Ellis hit stride. Then, in a moment, it was nearly pulled apart.
The defenseman tripped me, and it spun me around, and I was going at full tilt, and I knew I was going to go into the boards. I was out cold. Joe Scrow, the trainer, told me, came out and he broke 3 of the ammonia packs under my nose even before I came around. And I was totally out of it.
The crowd was gripped in shocked silence, felt most strongly by Paul's wife, Eleanor.
My immediate reaction probably was fear. For fear it was a serious injury of the neck or the brain, and them not having the facilities here that we were certainly used to. Our standards of medicine would not be up to par here.
Henderson summoned courage as the game went on. By the intermission, he'd made up his mind.
You know, I was crying. I said, Harry, you've got to let me play. And so he looked at the doctor, and the doctor says, well, you know, he says, I can't stop this, but he says, I'm telling you, you probably should not play. You got a slight concussion. And I said, well, you know, let's go. And so Harry said, okay, and so we went back out.
Paul Henderson has returned to the ice for the first time after his injury when he went in the board.
By the time Henderson returned, Blinoff had narrowed the score to 3-1. And then...
Clark makes a long pass to Henderson. He's in the clear. Right in the goal. He scores! Henderson! Clark, beautiful.
Finally, breathing room. A 3-goal third-period lead. Then, inexplicably, he stopped skating, and they pounced.
Dr. again took it off the board, centered it, a long shot.
It seemed that it was just not meant to be. After all, we'd come so far, played so well, and therein lay the hope.
Personally, I felt the turning point of the series was Game 5. I had watched the game carefully, and I went in and I was telling the players on the team, boys, I said, we can beat this team. That was the first time that I saw on the ice that we could beat that team.
4 goals in 5 minutes. Devastating. It would have been easy to fold right then, right there. There'd be no more goals for Canada. The score remained 5-4 Soviets. Understandably, frustration prevailed.